Hey guys, welcome back to Words Are Tough, episode 16. My name is Jose, and I'm here with my co-host
David Diokendo.
And we have another special episode for you this
evening. They're all pretty special.
Yeah, I just like to say that.
You know what we didn't talk about last episode was like and subscribe. I just realized. Yeah. Please do that. I'm happy that with all the subscribers we currently have, but if you're on Spotify or whatever, or YouTube, whatever equivalent is to like something or thumbs up it or subscribe or I don't know, you fill in the blank.
Share it.
we need it, please. Today's topic, we sometimes we have a topic at hand and sometimes we don't. Today, I've been listening or hearing this sort of phrase going around, which is the phrase high value man, which is kind of odd. And my friend, I think it's okay to mention his name. I don't know. I won't mention his name. But he introduced me to this man called Kevin Samuels, and who's a bit of a... I mentioned him in a episode ago or so.
Yeah, I looked him up actually after that.
Is he... What are your thoughts on him?
He was everything I thought him to be. I only watched one video because I was just listening on my
He goes
AirPod.
hard.
But
he goes hard on some of these people. I'm like, why are you calling in? One of my former coworkers, who's a woman, she was like critiquing him and like, she was pretty harsh on him. And I'm like, yeah, but these individuals call in and he just like, I won't say put them in their place because that seems just kind of like misogynistic, but like he really like he just tells them how certain things are. But I'm not gonna critique Kevin Samuels. He's doing his thing. You do you. I'm not gonna critique that. But we are gonna talk about the whole notion or idea of like what a high value man is, and wherever this conversation goes, that's where it goes. But like. Let me ask you. So when the word high value man is said, how do you interpret that?
For me, right off the bat, when I think of like, I hear a girl say that,
or just any person say that. Just
okay, yeah, okay. So
just
anyone. Okay, so not just women.
Just
say
the
that.
word.
Okay.
You see the word high value man.
So someone who, I guess, has got it all together. Like they got a good head on their shoulders, successful. Pretty much like if he's single, he's someone that a woman would see and want to be with. That's pretty much what I think about instantly. Like when I hear that,
right?
Desirable. Successful.
Is he good looking?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even think about that because most of the most desirable guys I know, they just got a lot of money. So, and value.
Some, I think for some people, I hate to generalize, but for men, I think a lot of times they're sort of what they desire or want in a significant other. Or I'll be more specific. Heterosexual men want in a particular significant other, a woman might be different from what a heterosexual woman wants in a man. I think they're not both the same thing.
Definitely.
And I think there is that assumption that, yeah, we both want the same thing. No, you don't. A lot of times you don't. But according to Kevin Samuels, based on my very brief research, is a high value man is defined by 1, a man's ability to earn at least. Before I continue, do you consider yourself a high value man?
Yes.
I thought I did until I heard his definition, and I'm like, I guess I'm not. So a man's ability to earn at least $10K monthly.
All right.
I'm already out of that. And 2, earning of $10K monthly over the course of 5 years.
I feel like if I was making that much money, I wouldn't care if someone thought I was high value.
Yeah, you wouldn't be talking about this right now. 3, acceptance from a group of other high value men. So it's not just you individually, but you also other men confirming, yeah,
you're a big fish.
You're legit
in a big pond.
Yeah. 4, access to a fraternity like network, so networking of other men. 5, an accepted prominent position by society, so that could be anything, maybe in politics or I don't know. That's very open. That's very like vague and open-ended. Yeah. And 6, the ability to be of use by other high-value men. So you're not just by yourself, but like other men find you of use and helpful. So I mean, right off the bat, yeah, I'm not any of that. I mean, well, I believe I do have access to a fraternity like network and have the ability to like help other individuals, but like usually of equal, class or standing or income. But immediately I'm like, yeah, definitely not that. Do you think these standards are like too much? All right. This episode is sponsored by Nbox, a modern mailing center designed to meet the security needs of our time, whether it's shipping for our favorite products or paying monthly bills. Statistics show a transition to online convenience. It's quick and simple, which is why we love it. Unfortunately, it's created a new kind of criminal that seeks to steal your identity or take packages right from your porch. To sweeten the deal, you no longer have to worry about ordering expensive items online, only to have them sit in front of your residence unattended. Simply shop online as you normally would and ship everything directly to their secure facility. You'll receive an instant arrival notification so you can stop by for pickup or arrange a custom delivery at a time when you're home to receive it. As a listener, you can enjoy $5 off the lifetime of your subscription to an Nbox package plan when you enter tough words without spaces at checkout. Visit www.nboxdelivers.com to learn more.
Wow, that is awesome. And I have our second sponsor here, Premier Rank Marketing. Special shout out. If you have a business, you have any type of product that you're selling, you have some work that needs to be done on Google, on YouTube rankings, reach out to Premier Rank Marketing. I'm going to shoot their website right below there. And, it's just anything you need from like growing your social media presence or basically getting your name out there, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Maps. If you have a brick and mortar business, they can help you out and they'll take care of you. And our last 2 sponsors we have here, Worldwide Multi-Service. They do taxes, travel, and insurance. And Rick's Barbershop here in Garfield, New Jersey, good old G Field. If you need to look good for your headshots, for a date, if you've been swiping right a lot and, you have something coming up, definitely hit up Rick's Barbershop. He'll take care of you, and tell him that WordsrTough sent you, and he'll definitely hook you up. And thanks so much for the little break, and back to the show.
Awesome.
I think, you know what? It screams very, like, politicky to me.
Politicky.
Like, yeah.
New word of the day for WordsrTough. Politicky.
Like the person whose standards that fits, I feel like is like the daughter of a rich guy who the rich guy used to be in politics, and like this is the kind of guy that I'm gonna approve for my daughter, like kind of, I'm not gonna add a accent to the voice, but
yeah. I mean, it seems like the high value is valuing. None of this has anything to do with looks. Doesn't matter how you look, or even the exact job you have. It's more about the amount of money that you make. Who made up this list? I don't even know. Cameron Samuels does mention it, but he doesn't say that he made this list up. But I need to double check on where exactly he found this list. But it's a very interesting list, and I think the reason why I'm mentioning it is because, is this even a reachable goal? But at the same time, if everyone can reach it, then if everyone's a high value man, and then the high value man is just an average guy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When you first said about the money, it sounded a lot worse than it was. Then I did the math after you said it. I'm like, wait, all right, okay, that's not too bad, but it's still a lot of money. You know,
it's
like,
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. But at first when you said that, I was like, oh shit,
$10K a month. I can't do that.
Yeah, but
well, I mean, not can't right now. I mean, eventually. My goal when it comes to like financially, I would like to be in a financial place where I can donate money when people need it, and not feel like I'm like in a financial hole afterwards. That's my goal.
That's what I tell the universe when I tell it to let me win the lottery. I'm gonna donate most of it.
Yeah,
you know.
But when it comes to just, I mean, I don't want to put a number on it because I don't really know how much that will be. But like, if someone said, "Hey, I need a few grand for like my child being sick, or I need some money for this or that, or be a sponsor for a podcast like we have now, or be an investor for something," and I'm like, yeah, sure. And that's my goal, at least financially, that I can be able to like give back to my community, which is very vague. Community is very there's like global community and there's like little neighborhood community, but that's my sort of goal. But when I started talking about, or me and my wife had a discussion, and I asked her, am I considered a high value, or do you consider me a high value man? And then she said yes, and I'm like, okay, because I already knew this list in my head. I'm like, what makes me a high value man? And then everything she told me had nothing to do with money.
Yeah.
So I always feel like, you know, at least my wife, she considers like me being a stable person. Like she knows like, hey, you know, like I hate to say I'm home on time, but like I'm home on a for the most part on a decent time. I'm not like one day I'm like here, another day I'm there. You know, she knows, you know, like my job as a teacher is pretty stable, and then we have common interests and such like that. You know, I'm not inept when it comes to cooking and cleaning. I know how to cook and clean. Like if no one's there to cook for me, I'm fine. I can just cook for myself. It's like, I remember recently she was like, oh, I feel bad. I'm like, why? And she's like, I didn't cook today. I'm like, I can cook. She's like, you can? I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want? Like, I can cook today. It's not a problem. I'm wondering if like people are cheering on. I'm like, yeah, you cooked. But like, you know, I mean, she likes to cook because it's like she's just way better at it than me. Like I can cook something up small, but for me, I'm more like I can maintain not dying. You know, I can just. So I was like, can you cook? Well, I can cook enough to like not be malnourished. But yeah, it was this sort of discussion about like, what is a high value man? What isn't a high value man? And every person I talk to, they don't say, yeah, make $10K a month. But then again, I don't know. I think, but then again, if I feel like just like the whole, if everyone gets a trophy, then like the meaning of the trophy means nothing at that point. So
yeah, and one of the things when you said, you know, what do you think a high valued man, or what does it mean to you when you hear that? Like for me, the first thing I wanted to see was who it's coming from, you know, because that kind of will tell me a lot, you know, because, you know, if you're talking to like an artist, that completely changes, you know, like what values are to them.
Yeah,
they might not even think about money, you know.
Yeah, or define, and the word here does. I mean, the word success is even on this, but for the most part, most people consider this a successful man. But oh yeah, and Kevin Samuels does make more than this, so he's not just saying it. He practices what he preaches. So I don't know, like it's an interesting sort of thing that I keep seeing over and over again, and then. When an individual says, hey, I want a high value man, or when a woman says, I want a high value man, like, what do they mean by that? And a lot of the times, based on my friends' discussion with friends, a lot of times what people want, they can't provide. Or what I mean by that is like, they say, hey, I want X, Y, and Z in a relationship, right? Because I've been married for 2 weeks, therefore I'm a pro. I'm not. Or 3 weeks. I already forgot. 3 weeks.
You're the doghouse.
Yeah, whatever. She doesn't even listen to this podcast, so it's completely okay.
That's the one clip she's going to say.
Yeah, the Like I skipped over to minute 10, and you said you remember. I think 3 weeks now, but it's one thing. It's always important. And I had a friend that asked me like, "Hey, like, how did you meet your spouse, and what worked for you guys?" And I told her like, stop thinking what can you get from somebody, and start thinking what do you provide to that person. So once you focus on like what I can provide, it's a different sort of point of view as opposed to like taking, you're giving. So as long as I'm focused on like, what can I provide to my wife today, or what can I help her with today, that's, at least for me, makes me at peace, or we have a better relationship that way, as opposed to me saying, hey, what do you do, or what are you going to do for me today? That's not a good place to be. I think in most relationships, I mean, this is just my advice, take it or leave it, but it's like, hey, change the view as like, instead of saying, what can my girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, or wife, what are they giving me? Ask yourself, what are you giving them? And that can be a very sober, that's hard to say, because you're like, well, what do I give my significant other? Intangibly, like actual, in a literal sense.
Yeah.
But one thing about relationships, we saw this video, I think we saw the same video of this sort of panel discussion. I completely forgot where this video came from, but it kind of it did its rounds. I call it on Black YouTube, because you know how there's Black Twitter.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely Black YouTube, because once you like start watching certain videos, like everything in the algorithm changes completely. But this sort of woman talked about like how she's in a relationship currently, but her ex boyfriend or ex partner still pays for most, if not all, her bills, like her car bill, her condo bill or rent, everything, till I don't know for how long, but, and she had a boyfriend. So I'm not gonna critique her, because I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna critique the dude. So if you were in that same situation, just say you have a significant other, and she told you, hey, my car, our current living situation is being paid by another man. And not just another man, a man I was sexually involved with. How would you go about, would you be okay with it? Would you be like, no, that doesn't work for me? Like, how would that work?
Well,
be honest.
The current me, I'd be like, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Because, the current you, okay.
Yeah, the current me, I wouldn't be able to do it, because I know she's still got some ties to this guy. If nobody's paying someone's bills and not getting anything out of it. That's what's going through my head, Like, what's the exchange? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, she's still spending time with him, or is she going by there on random nights, things like that, or
what is he getting out of it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I would think now, the current me. Yeah.
Then what's the past you then? Like
we're going to go right to the past me? Okay. So the past me, I wouldn't care, and I'd be like, all right, if he's paid for a living situation, we're hanging out here, I don't care, But then that would also be the past me that was not trying to be in a serious relationship, So right. I would also find this as an easy way for me to justify to myself that I can maybe talk to someone, because she's still got some connections to her ex and things like that, Of course, I wouldn't do it completely behind her back, but I'd be like, listen,
if you're speaking to your ex and he's doing this, well, I can speak to my ex and do that.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. But I'd put it out there, and see what she says.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. If I was not in a serious relationship with that individual, that person, and they were doing that, and it was just like a girl I was having fun with in my early 20s, I wouldn't really care. I'd be like, you do you. We can have free food, and we can go out, wine and dine without spending anything. But
I feel like you stopped yourself from rhyming.
Yeah, I was like, wine and dine without spending a dime. Yeah, I noticed myself going there. Like, I'm not gonna rhyme.
I could have let that go.
Yeah, it's okay. But as an adult, I mean, honestly, if I'm not old, but I'm in my mid-30s. I can say with confidence, when I was 20, 21, 22, I was a child. I was just like a tall child, or not even far from tall, but like, yeah, I was still childlike. But as a grown person, adult now with responsibilities and being married with bills, serious bills and all that, and a house, I would say, yeah, that would not fly. It's not even that. It just sort of, I guess as a guy, I'd be like, no, that's my responsibility. I should take care of my significant other, not somebody else. I would feel less, I guess maybe you can say maybe insecure, but I would feel lesser than like, what am I not providing? It'd be, financially, like, why am I not providing for this individual? I'll be kind of insecure about that. I mean, even if it's not even like even if they're not even like involved other than that sort of financial exchange, I would still feel kind of insecure about it. Like, yeah, no, that's not your place. She's with me. I'm with her. We're in a serious relationship. Thank you, dude. But you can, bye-bye. You can go now. And if she had a problem with that, then I'm like, okay, then this relationship cannot continue at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I would not feel comfortable in any way with that exchange. But again, it's based on like my maturity at that time. But now, yeah, I probably would not let that continue at all.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, the past me too. Now I'm in the past me mental state right now. Maybe, I'd be like, hey, maybe this guy's rich. And if he's paying her credit card bill, I'm like, let's go shopping, things like I would try to ride it out.
Yeah, I mean, if I was 21, 22, it probably wouldn't bother me in any way because I was kind of nearsighted at the time. And my focus was other things, not anything serious. But yeah.
That's part of growth and, becoming an adult and, learning from your mistakes. Well, not you, but I mean, the general you.
Well, I made a lot of. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't make a lot of mistakes in past relationships. But yeah, it's like for example, my ex-girlfriend. Even after we broke up, I wouldn't help her financially, but I would say, hey, if you need anything, because we broke up in a fairly on good terms. Mm-hmm. But for a year or so, I said, hey, if you need anything, I can help you. Like, she didn't have a vehicle, and I said, hey, if I'm in the area and you need me to drive you to do grocery shopping or whatever, if you need help with, not necessarily pay for it, but like, because she had car issues, I was like, I'm okay to help you out. So, but obviously when she got into a serious relationship and I did, then it's like, okay, like, I'm like, you're good. He can deal with, he can help you out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but even for me, even if I'm cool with somebody, if they're in a relationship with somebody else, that my need to like make sure they're okay kind of goes away. And I've wanted to be okay, but like, I gotta respect boundaries. I gotta respect, hey, I'm not trying to do anything. And if the shoe was on another foot, I'll feel kind of like, why does this guy keep calling you? Like, why is he always coming over? Like,
yeah,
why are you over, dude? Like,
see, but this is the thing. See, now this gets into another little category for me. I think if that guy had a problem that you're calling, he should be like, why don't you tell him to stop reaching out? You know what I mean? Like to your ex.
The
new guy.
This is hypothetical. This is not actually happening. That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Because that's what I would say. I would be like, put it more on the person I'm talking to than get mad at you.
Yeah, there's that weird thing. Why is that? That thing where if someone's caught cheating, like just say two guys, like just say boyfriend, girlfriend, and ex, or boyfriend, girlfriend, and the other guy, and the boyfriend finds out the girl's cheating. Why does that guy verbally or physically attack the guy and don't attack your significant other, and not like acknowledge to the girl, or the other way around? If there's two girls, the guy's cheating and whatever. Why is it always like that significant other go after not their significant other, but the other one, the homewrecker or whatever you want to call it?
I think it's personally because, let's say two guys, it's like socially accepted for them to get into a physical altercation, so it's okay. And personally, my stance on that is like, is it someone you know? If it's someone you know, then I think maybe you have a little free reign to like make it physical.
Like a cousin, like your brother.
Oh, if it's family, that's even worse. Right? That'd be more bizarre, and I'd probably just like leave, you know, if that happened. But let's say if it's somebody completely random, and they didn't even know that you existed, for instance, in that case. Then I feel bad to punch this guy in the face. You know?
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on, or.
So that's why when I see movies when like some guy's cheating and another guy comes in with a gun and he's like, "Oh, someone's gonna get killed right now."
Yeah.
I would think if that was me, I'd just be like, "Yo, I didn't even know."
That'd be terrifying if you're in a relationship with somebody, and they don't like. You see this guy walking with a gun. You'd be like, "What?" Imagine being your last thoughts alive. Like you're with someone and then like they walk in and you find out that person's like their husband or wife or whatever or other significant other, and that's like your first thought, like, oh shit, like what the hell, like. Yeah, I would hate to be in that position of being the one being deceived, and then you get shot or you get hurt. Or people
lose their lives like that all the time. I'm assuming, you know, because the guy thinks he just snaps, and sometimes they kill both people. You know, like, and not to get too dark, but
we tend to get dark sometimes.
It makes me, I just go.
Our podcast always goes to like someone dying. Why is that?
One time when I was out, you know, I'm not gonna name any names, and disclaimer. I didn't tell anyone about this story before, and I'm not going to tell anyone who you are if you happen to see this. But so don't think I'm telling anyone this. But
mystery.
I happened to see an old friend at a bar.
Okay.
Years back, let's say, right?
Yeah, be as vague as possible.
No, I'm going to be super vague. But she was married. I didn't know. Nothing really happened too crazy. Like, no big lines were crossed. But we were kind of talking, and she was like really excited,
flirtatious.
But she was just really, giving most of the, because I was just more like taken aback, surprised, like, why is this person so happy to see me? But anyway, she's trying to get me to come home with her and things like that, and I'm like, listen,
scandalous.
I'm like, listen, I'm like, like we were drinking a lot, so I'm like, I didn't drive drunk, but I was like, we're gonna get you home, and you're probably going to think differently of this when you're sober and stuff like that.
You might think back and be like, wow, I was speaking stupid.
And then when we're on the way, she's like, oh, why don't you come inside? She's like, my husband's a cop and all this. And I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, no, I'm not coming in. And she's like, oh, why? What, are you scared of my husband or something? And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm like, of course. Why wouldn't I be scared of someone with a gun? Like just coming home and there's some guy, like, some Latino guy in his house.
So the husband was home?
Well, no, I guess he must have been working.
Oh yeah,
but she wanted me to come because if she was inviting me to her house and her husband was home,
those are a lot of
then I'm thinking a lot of red flags. In on it? There's like,
there's a lot of red flags.
But you could see how that situation would run through your mind. Like this guy can come home and kill me. Like he could snap. He could have a bad shift or something.
That happens a lot.
And there's people that take those chances. It's crazy. It's like
there's some people that know that this other person is in a relationship and they still continue. I don't know. I don't understand.
I've heard of these guys. None of my friends, by the way. I
did have a weird proposition many, many years ago when I looked like I look young now, I guess, but when I looked much, much younger, I was at an art gallery show by myself, and ever get that feeling when someone's looking at you? There's actually some scientific study on people know when you're looking at them, and happens with animals as well, we're animals, but other animals. But I had a feeling someone was staring at me, and two people approached me, one guy, one girl, two very beautiful people. They're both, the man was handsome and the woman was gorgeous. I thought they were a couple. I find out they said, "Hey, are you gay or are you straight?" And I'm like, "I'm straight." Okay, because we were doing a bet on if you're straight or not, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm straight." Oh, cool. Well, we're gonna go over my friend's house, and if you want to take part, fill in the blank, you can come. And I'm like, wait, what? This is real? In my head, I'm like, this is what things happen in movies. This doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
And it was like this sort of these friends, these girl and a guy that were friends, and they were like into that. They'll just find a person they both mutually found attractive, and then this is like Chelsea, New York, nice. Where all the galleries are and whatnot. So, she said something to me that completely just turned me off, and I just stopped. I just like, nope, I'm good. You know what it was?
What?
It was the dumbest thing, or I mean, not dumb, but it was kind of weird. I mean, their ethnicity matters. They're both white, and they asked me, "Oh, are you Hispanic? What are you, Latino or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican." And then afterwards, after some talking and a few drinks, this is all in the context of an art gallery. I said, yeah, and as a Latino guy, and yada yada. I don't remember the exact conversation, but she said, I'm sorry, you're not Latino. And I'm like, come again? She's like, well, you're not from Latin America. You're from Puerto Rico. It's a Caribbean island. And I'm like, what? What are you talking? I was just so taken aback by it, and I'm like, have a good night, and I just left. I just like this is the first time ever some person said I wasn't Latino. Like I'm like, is my whole life a lie? Like, is this not true? I don't know.
I think what they meant is that you're because there's like Hispanic and Latino, right?
Yeah,
so
and then there's like this,
but they were just communicated it really bad.
And I'm just sorry. I'm like, if don't tell someone that. It's like yeah. Don't. I mean, if you're in that ethnicity, I guess it's okay to correct someone. Like, actually, you're not this, you're that. I mean, but like in that time and space and my lack of sobriety, even actually no, that conversation sobered me up very fast. I was like, hold on, what? I was like really into this idea, and I'm like, nope. And believe it or not, to this day, I'm still cool with the guy. The girl, I'm not cool with, and it was like nope. But the guy he's friends with me on like I think he follows me on Instagram and whatnot. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And this was like 15 years ago. This is a long time ago. It was pretty interesting though. It was such an odd interaction, and I'm happy I don't get into those interactions anymore. But yeah, it's really, really bizarre. But people, do you believe, or not necessarily believe, but when people say, oh, I blacked out, I don't remember what happened last night, do you buy that?
Not to make myselve look bad, but I have been known to have a lot of drinks at some certain points. When I don't have work the next day, let loose. I've had a lot of drinks at certain times, and I don't black out. But there's certain alcohols that do it. And more recently, there was this alcohol that came out, and it happened to me twice, and I didn't even drink that much. Called Casamigos. So
I heard of
it's
it.
a warning to everybody: don't go crazy on Casamigos, because it seemed to be only those 2 times that I drank that.
Casamigos is a vodka, tequila. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
tequila.
There's little snippets of the night that I don't remember, and then
call it the memory.
Next thing I know,
the
I'm
memory
in Hoboken.
stealer.
Yeah, I'm in Hoboken singing karaoke, and I'm like, whoa, how did this happen?
Yeah.
So Casamigos, beware. But yeah, I think it does happen.
I've never blacked out. Again, I've only had maybe like 2 or 3 like being drunk. Like I can't function right now. I can just sit down or lay down right now. I was completely aware of what I was saying, what I was doing, and everything. So when people tell me like, yeah, I blacked out, like I'm like, how? Like I've been drunk before, and I remember everything. I remember throwing up and everything. I remember every person I hugged and every location I went to. I remember everything. But I don't know. Because it's never happened to me, nor would I ever like want to see if I get there.
Yeah.
I'm just honestly terrified. I know way too many people that got their stomach pumped.
Ooh.
Like,
yeah, that's rough.
And in high school, like I was like, I mean, I never really drank in high school. Underage drinking, don't do it. Kids got, what's the most embarrassing thing? This one kid, he was like a grade above me. We went to this one party, and I would always show up late and leave early. I was that kind of person. Just like I'm in there for like 45 minutes and then just leave before anyone notices I'm there. But there's one kid that it was like a Friday party, and he ended up going to the hospital, got his stomach pumped.
Oof.
And he was at school on Monday, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, that's crazy. I'm like, crazy? You almost died, and everyone knows you almost died. What is wrong with you? Yeah. He's like, I don't know. It was kind of embarrassing. Kind of embarrassing? What do you mean kind of embarrassing? If we didn't have modern technology, you wouldn't be walking around right now. Like, this simple as that.
It's true.
But there's some, like, I guess there's some weird stories when it comes to, like, substances and such. And I always feel like, I think for the past 3 episodes, we have this theme of mentioning a substance or two.
Yeah.
What was it? The 14 was altered states.
Altered states, yeah.
Yeah, and then we mentioned the marijuana use, and then now the alcohol. Interesting. Actually, I do have this interesting idea to just have one podcast where we just find a particular food, to say burger, and we just find a bunch of burger joints, like local and like franchises, and just have a taste of burgers for an hour. I mean, I might vomit at the end of it because I don't retain food that well. But that's an idea I have.
Yeah, and that's pretty good because right down the street we have Steve's Burgers right there.
That's awesome.
And then we have also Burger Jam, like right on the same street. So those will be a few good ones right there. But yeah, definitely that'll be good. And being that we're talking about food right now, put you on the spot. Is there anywhere you've been out to dinner? Doesn't have to be recently, but like let's say in the past like year or two, that's like a really cool spot, like unique and nice to go for like a dinner.
It was more than a year or two ago, but I went to this place my brother introduced me to in Montclair called on Bloomfield Ave, called Pig and Prince, or Pig and the Prince. They converted one of the train stations, I think it was a train station, or a bus station, and they converted it into a restaurant. And it was probably the most, I mean, it's somewhat fancy. I mean, it's nice to dress up a little bit, but probably Pig and Prince. It was a nice, fancy restaurant. One of those like, hey, I'm going to just wear a button down. Or, is it button down or button up?
I think it's button down.
Like, are you wearing a button down or button up?
I think it's a button down that people call it, but I don't call it that either.
What do you call it?
Button shirt.
A button shirt. But you wear a button shirt and go and kind of like, it's kind of loungy / restaurant kind of vibe, which I like a lot. It's very bespoke kind of look, which is very common these days. Like it had like old rusty nails, like big like those sort of train station, those railroad track nails. And I think the other one is, I mentioned it before, is called Cuban Pete's.
Oh,
and I've been there plenty of times. I love the food. Yeah, I have no real complaints. I mean, I guess the main complaint is like if you're into alcohol, they don't sell alcohol. You gotta like buy it at a nearby
BYOB?
store. Yeah, I guess they don't have a license or whatever. I don't know if it's still like that, but they had this old school like truck from like the 1960s in front. It's like turquoise or sort of sky blue truck.
Yeah,
I don't know if they still have it though.
It's like an old school like Cuban style, like.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I think they do. And you know what? I don't know if you know about this, but or maybe we talked about this before when you mentioned it that time. They got into like a lot of hot water over, like I guess the owner wrote some like, I don't know, like something about his service towards like racial groups in the restaurant.
Oh,
there was like
I know
like
that.
a whole boycott and things like that. I don't know where they're at now, but they were laying it on thick on him. He's sort of
he's biased. He behaves a little bit differently based on what demographic you are.
Yeah, like I guess what kind of groups he wants in the place, like
oh, okay.
Prefers a certain.
But it's called Cuban Pete's, so does he prefer Hispanic people? Like, I don't know. What was his preference?
No, yeah. I mean, apparently, I guess more like I guess people of African American descent felt like they were getting mistreated there. And it might just be that the service sucks all around.
That's very Cuban of you. Well, I don't want to say that, but like there is definitely a riff especially in Dominican Republic and Cuba, even in Puerto Rico. There is a dark lines. Versus light thing, especially in Cuba.
Between DR and Haiti, which is they border each other.
That's just
terrible. They turned it around on Haiti.
Yeah, and it's like it's the same island, and it's like, no, you guys. I'm not even joking. If you actually go to Google Maps and go Dominican Republic and Haiti, it's literally a line.
Yeah,
it's a straight line.
Yeah, there's
no like little zigzags and rivers. Like, no, it's just one straight line down this, like, I think Haiti's like 1/3 of the island, and Dominican Republic is like two-thirds about. But it's so bizarre. But yeah, there's definitely a racial divide amongst Caribbean people, dark and light, and I'm a little bit in between. My mom is fairly light-skinned. I mean, she tans well, but she's fairly light-skinned. But in Puerto Rico, she's considered dark, which is kind of odd.
But in Puerto Rico specifically, there's a lot of light skin for Latino countries. Like I think, like Colombia, Puerto Rico, Argentina, they have like a really light skin.
Oh yeah, I have cousins that are like very fair, fairly fair,
fairer than some white people I know.
Yeah, and you can meet some blonde hair, blue eyed Puerto Ricans. And the funniest thing, we were we were in New York City. This is many years ago. I was like a 10 or 12. And some tourists approached my mom's cousin, my second cousin, and he's very light, and he didn't speak a lick of English because he was visiting Puerto Rico. And she's approached him and said, "Oh, mister, like, I want to go somewhere." And he's like, he just shrugged his shoulders, like, "I don't." And he's like, "Oh, he doesn't speak any English." It's like, "Oh, he doesn't?" Like, so this is the interesting affiliation between like being white and speaking English, but like it's definitely a thing. But I mean, for me, in my particular family, we're a mix of everything. I mean, it's kind of, I don't really care what color you are. What's your behavior? What's your character? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a surprise. Is the guy that owns Cuban Pete's, going back to Cuban Pete's, is he Cuban?
I think it's, I don't think so. And I think it also didn't have to just do with the service there. I think there was some like posts that he made, because you know how it was a couple years back.
Yeah,
which made him look stupid, which, I mean, he's got every right to believe in whatever he believes in. But
do your thing, be an idiot.
But there's just some things that you say online that, not even just for the fact of being a business owner, maybe you should be a little more private on that, like.
Yeah, well, this is my thing when it comes to like social media posts. I'm gonna sound weird saying, I kind of want people to be honest, so I know who you are, and so I don't buy your product or go to your establishment. But at the same time, it's kind of like, but I don't want things like that to be spread around and just be like, oh, that guy said it, so I can say it too, and then before you know it, then people just think it's okay to say dumb things. So it's kind of this weird thing. It's like if you think something about me based on my physical appearance, I kind of want to know, so I don't deal with you. So I'm not. Yeah. But at the same time, like, always like kind of spouting that out on social media, and then like it makes people comfortable saying those things. Yeah, I don't want that either. So I don't know. It's kind of like a catch-22.
Yeah, that was also like some people were saying a silver lining of the presidency that we just got out of, just like knowing, how certain people acted for 4 years and now all of a sudden acting differently again. Like, like forgive but don't forget, kind of thing. Like now you kind of expose yourself a little bit.
I mean, I won't say the issue, but the one thing that I guess came to light is, when Donald Trump would say certain things online or, you know, on social media, whatever, I would have, you know, friends either in jiu-jitsu or friends in like that I know in like other circles or whatnot that would say certain things. I'm like, but wait, we like hang out, or wait, like we're friends, and you know me as a dark Hispanic man, and you're saying these things about Hispanic people and this and that, and like you don't see a problem here. Like you don't think like I'll have like I don't know. It's this weird thing of like, and I spoke to one friend and I said, yeah, like you posted that. I'm not saying you can't post it, but I'm kind of wondering why, because you're friends with me and I'm a brown guy. And he's like, oh no, it's not you, not you know, not like you. I mean those other people. And I'm like, what do you mean those other people? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, like I'm talking about those like those illegals and stuff like that. And I'm like, but what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? But it's this weird, and a lot of times it's this weird like kind of boogeyman mentality. It's like people are just kind of angry at this sort of like person that they never actually ever met. You know, like I had this one coworker that had I'm gonna be very vague because don't want to spread dumb things. But I had this one particular coworker, and only that I'm also a teacher, and this is not from a current coworker. It's from many years ago. Had a particular point of view towards a particular demographic, and like, oh, they're like this, they're like that, they steal money, and they're up to no good, and I hate them, and this and that. And I'm like, but how many friends do you know that are that demographic? He's like, oh, none. Why would I want to be friends with any person other than my own ethnicity or demographic or people? And I'm like, yeah, you're an idiot, dude. Like, what? How are you an educator? Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know. I always feel like, and I won't say I don't see color. I do see color. I think when people say that, or that's, I know what you mean by that, but don't ever tell someone I don't see color. That's like saying like I don't smell smells or something like that. Like, no, it's good to, it's fine to acknowledge someone's color. You should. It keeps you from saying dumb things. But yeah, it's this weird. I don't know where I'm really going with this point, but I'm always in favor of like going to other cultures, going to other countries, eating the food, meeting the people, like befriending. You know, when you go to, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do, kind of thing, and you realize like, hey, my norm is different from other people's norms, and vice versa. I'm always tell people just you gotta travel more, and you know, don't. I mean, it's nice to have your own home, but it's a lot of people that have these very strong opinions towards another group of people. A lot of times they don't even know them personally. They just see on social media or they see on like TV or movie or whatever and just think, oh yeah, that's those people, you know. But I don't know how long I was talking for, but
no, it's okay. Yeah, you know, it's crazy because like you were saying, you know, like you would like to travel and meet new people. Like that's some of the things I think about. Like, you know, like I was talking with a friend about doing some trips, and he wanted to do like some big trips, you know, like Colombia, which I think I would fare well if I go because I know Spanish, you know, I know a lot of Colombian people, so I'm familiar.
My Spanish.
Yeah, and then he also he was throwing out ideas like Amsterdam, Iceland.
That's great. Amsterdam is great.
For those countries, it's almost like, hey, you know, like I think about it, like, you know, of course you're going to meet some people out there, and, you know, fairly, you know, me and my friends have had good luck when we travel, meeting cool people out on a night, and, you know, just gravitate towards the same type of people. But you can always run into a group of people that really don't like you. One, just because you're American. And then secondly, for me, because I'm of a different, you know, race or something like that, you know, because there's also those types of people in Europe. So it's just weird. It's like, how will you be perceived, you know, by people when you're out on the...
Yeah, there's like, you know, how do you view me based on... Like, yeah, because some... Yeah, that's an interesting take on things.
Yeah, I feel like safer, you know, going to like a country. Not that I feel unsafe going to other countries, but, you know, it's just a thought in the back of your mind. Like, oh, you know, there could be some like, you know, American hate or something on you, you know?
Well, I remember once going to France, and my passport says Puerto Rico because I was born in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And they're completely nice to me. They're like, "Oh, Puerto Rico, I love Puerto Rico." I'm like, "Yay!" I'm like that. I live in New Jersey. But I did speak to one person while I studied abroad in London, and I asked, like, "Hey, like, to the locals, you know, we were at a pub and whatnot, and I asked, like, hey, is it true that you know that other countries like hate Americans?" And then I think I mentioned this before, but whatever. And it's like, no, we just don't like your government, and then we don't like the tourists that come to our, you know, the country and want it to be like their country. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. So, like, yeah, if you travel, like, don't expect it to be exactly how it is at home, because what's the point?
Yeah, and that's what, like, you know, like, that was big in Texas right now, because a lot of people from California went to Texas.
It's awesome.
And there was this whole, and there was this whole Texas thing where it's like, don't try to change the place you're at now to the place you ran away from.
Yeah, what's the point? Like, you're there because you don't like the place that you were just at. That's why you're there, you know. But or when you're traveling, you're there because you want to embrace or enjoy that culture. So why are you trying to manipulate your environment so it's more like what you're comfortable with? Just like, no, just embrace what you're at and then enjoy it. And if you don't like it, then don't go back to that country or state or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if we did talk about this on the podcast before, but
it's okay, because if we did, then whoever's listening now can listen to it again.
Another weird thing was, like, I had a family member that just came and visited, and they live in Guatemala, right? But they also went to school abroad in Germany. And they said, and I know you're a little familiar with Germany, right? Like,
I've been there.
Family, you've been there, and
for like 2-3 weeks, and traveled there a little bit.
And one thing they said was that, like, you know, everyone was nice and things like that, but when she came here after Germany, she was really surprised of, like, how everyone has, like, American flags out and stuff like that. And I think I might have mentioned it, but
briefly,
basically, like, how people over there, they don't show that pride and things like that, you know, because of the history. But here,
I've maybe seen like 1 or 2 German flags in public from, like, on a person's, like, you know, home, you know, sticking out.
Yeah. Do you think that has something to say more of, like, how much our country has, like, I guess, like, fluffed up the way they teach the history to, you know, like, to the kids, to when they're young, you know, like,
I mean, to be dead honest, I didn't really learn about, like, genocide in Puerto Rico until I was, like, in my late teens, you know. But when you hear, or even just stick to just Thanksgiving, like, oh, the pilgrims and the natives came together and they ate food and had like, that's not how that went at all.
Yeah.
But I do think we tend to nerf or make sanitize or white out the history, so it's less, I guess, harsh, or, you know,
makes it palatable,
more palatable. But to the point of what? It's not even, like, true, you know, like like, for example, when people say, oh yeah, Puerto Rico, like, aren't you guys lucky? Like, well, first, like, it was bought and taken, everything was taken from the island, with all the gold is gone, and now, like, the economy just sucks there, and you have, like, these trust fund babies of moving there, just living on the resorts, and just, I don't know, it's not looking good right now. And I would love to live in Puerto Rico, but if I moved there now, there's no jobs, you know.
They have to make a Bitcoin legal tender there.
That'd be awesome.
Well, you know what? It might be a little trickier because it is technically U.S., right? So
it's the U.S. Yeah, Puerto Rico is technically the U.S.
Damn.
But I wish the history was taught a little bit more, not a little bit, a lot more honestly, and less like, no, we need to protect those children ears. Like, no, you need to be honest. You need to tell history how it is, and not make the U.S. always the good guy, because we weren't always the good guys.
I don't think we ever were.
Or ever were. Or even like, you know, like the concentration, the internment camps for Japanese and Asian people during World War II. That's pretty messed up, you know. Yeah. And trying to, I guess you can say, convert Native Americans or I don't even, is it even as PC to say Native Americans? The indigenous people of America. I know in Canada they call First Nation, like how they literally tried to like assimilate the children, like take the children from the homes and put them into like Western schools to like take away their culture, you know. And that happened also in Australia. The Aborigines in Australia, they would take the young, they'll just take them and put them into like schools, like boarding schools, and they never see their parents ever again. So yeah, I think history is definitely needs to be not rewritten, just taught a bit more honestly.
Yeah, real history. Because
I do think that there is a good demographic in the United States where they legit think that, you know, like the natives just came and, you know, it was like all lovey-dovey and like, oh, like we're sharing the land and yada yada yada. Like that's not how it happened.
And then you just picture like, you know, back to like first grade, you're like sitting in class making these like handprint turkeys.
Yeah, hand turkeys.
It's like that's the best you could come up with for us to like
yeah,
you know,
Thanksgiving. It's like Santa Claus. It's like you just made it's at the hand, like the turkey's just like Santa Claus, you know. But like I said in the last podcast, I'm not gonna teach my kids Santa Claus. I'm gonna teach them Krampus.
Okay.
And I'm serious with that. I'm definitely gonna teach my kids Krampus.
Yeah, Krampus.
I think it's great, but yeah, I mean, if you were to choose, what would you? Well, have you been to Germany, by the way?
No, I've never been to Europe.
Never been to Europe?
No, I've never been to Europe at all. That's why I want to go.
I would say...
But I'm actually going to Jamaica. Actually, that's a new development.
Well, that's not Europe, okay.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, just travel in general. Yeah. You know, so I'm excited about that. I've never been to like a Caribbean island. Or is it Caribbean?
Tomato. I really don't care. Like, Caribbean.
Yeah, I don't know which one it is.
I tend to say Caribbean.
Yeah, me too. That's just what comes out.
Caribbean seems to like, you know, it's like, do you say coconut or coconut?
What? That sounds like it's the same thing.
Coconut?
Oh, coconut.
Or coconut.
Coconut.
Yeah, people say coconut, not coconut.
Like coconut is like chocolate. Right?
Yeah,
like
cacao.
Like cacao.
But because it's COCO, but we say it's COCA, coconut.
Yeah.
Not
is that a Jersey
coconut.
thing?
I don't know.
No, right?
Is that a Jersey thing? I don't know if people are listening in like California.
Right.
It's saying.
Leave some comments down below if that's a Jersey thing.
Is it water or water?
Water.
Water. I mean, water. I tend to say water if I'm lazy, but if I want to enunciate, I say water.
Yeah, I say water. Water.
But my go-to is definitely water. But yeah, when I went to Germany, when I visited for about 2 or so weeks, the not very patriotic. I mean, they like being German and they're proud of their design, and their design is amazing. Like their architecture is amazing and everything. But like anything referencing World War II is just gone. Understandably so.
Yeah, definitely.
Then again, I mean, you try to speak to the locals, but they tend to be very PC. I don't, and yeah, it's great. I'm not going to Germany is awesome, but it's the patriotism isn't there. Understandably, not there. But I think it's because they understand their history, and it's not that long ago that World War II happened.
I wonder if there was World War III, if Germany would be our ally. I think so this time around.
Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed that never happens.
Yeah, not that I want World War III to happen, but it just, sometimes on YouTube you go down those little holes that like
huge,
and then
black
now it's like
holes.
There's like a whole little section about simulations of World War III, what would happen, and like if these countries
teamed up, if like Hitler won, and then what would be?
Well, no, not exactly that. Just like if, let's say it was like China, Russia, and North Korea.
Like different team ups.
Yeah.
Like if they came to this side, then what would happen?
And then these like I guess ex-military with like high-ranking knowledge and stuff would break it down, like pretty much what would happen and how they would attack us. What would be the best way to
kind of like
attacked.
Risk.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I know that they said that one of the most vulnerable would be China and Russia attacking through Canada, and then making their way to the U.S. through that way, which would be an easy route.
Canadians,
Yeah.
No, I like Canada. I like Canadians. Have you been to Canada?
Yeah. Montreal. It was beautiful.
But I think I've seen the Niagara Falls, I believe twice. It's good, but the next spot I want to visit is definitely Japan. I did tell my wife that what I want to do is go to all of the big, I've been to a few of them, but all the big museums, the world-renowned museums, like the Louvre, which is in France and Paris.
And you've been there?
Yeah, I've been there. The Whitney, which is in London, which I've been there as well. But I want to take her to these things. And there is Spain is Bilbao, this huge museum designed by Frank Gehry. I'm not joking. Frank Gehry, this guy does this. He literally, he does this, and he's like, that's the building. And the building will just look like a crumpled piece of paper made out of steel. I actually kind of need that. Actually, no, I don't really. This is from the last podcast. But anyway, but this is Bilbao and Spain. And there's a handful of different big museums that I want to take my wife to. And it'll be like our little, not bucket list, because bucket list seems like what old people do. I don't know. But it's definitely one of those things I want to like
tied to death.
Yeah, I would want to say bucket list, but and there's definitely a big museum in Japan that I forget the name of, because it's not just going to some place, it's also like knowing what you want to do there. Yeah. I know Amsterdam has several museums, but that's a Van Gogh museum, which is really cool, which I've been to as well. So, but traveling is really, as you can tell, traveling is really important to me. I think it's super, super important as not just an art creative person, but like any person. Then when you come back here, you realize, oh wait, like this is kind of messed up. One thing is bicycling. Like when you go to Amsterdam, there's a bike, I might have mentioned this before, but there's a bike lane, like a completely differently paved lane just for bikes. Like if you go to New York, it's not even a paved lane, it's just like a line, like a paint
where you can still get wrecked.
You still get hit. You still get wrecked. There's no like division or dividing you from like the actual like traffic. But in Amsterdam and some other locations in Holland, the infrastructure is for walking, riding your bike, and driving. And everyone there is fit. Like everyone there is like super, super fit, like because they're walking everywhere and riding their bikes everywhere. Like it's, I don't know, like normally, here you'll see, I don't mean like large. I mean like here there's like morbidly obese people, like big like, people.
My 600
like
pound
can't
life.
get out of bed people.
Yeah.
And and in all seriousness, I am not fat shaming in any way, but I feel bad when I see like an old lady, or not even old lady, like a lady like in one of those like strollers and like in like Target, and like they're very large. I feel bad. Oh, and you mean like the little like little scooters things.
Yeah.
And I legit like feel bad for them, but I'm like, wow, like that's not good for you. That's not healthy for you.
Yeah, it's just as a country, like as a whole, just having tons of like really bad options, for food. And
everything's
things like that.
Too convenient.
Yeah, and it's just like, I guess these people are having a hard time in life and just find comfort in food. It makes it really hard for them, and it just becomes like, not to make it like, some people make a joke of it, but it's like a vicious cycle, like I guess for some people. And then their ability to not work out makes them depressed, and then they eat because it's just,
they eat because they're depressed, and then they get it's very very unfortunate. But going back to Amsterdam and like, but everyone is like because they're traveling so much and walking everywhere, and the portions of food is like maybe like 2/3 of our portion, so it's very different. I mean, we're kind of repeating the same travel podcast episode we did.
This episode is like a summation of all the episodes, I guess.
But I mean, we did talk about the Olympics before, and I don't think we really talked about like what. Actually, I didn't mention what I want to look at, because you talked about like wrestling and you find the pole vaulters attractive,
and the hurdlers. Yeah,
you find them attractive. Well, sadly, there are some athletes that become popular because of how attractive they are.
Yeah,
and
I like volleyball too.
I don't know how would I feel about that if I was like this like committed athlete. I'm kind of tossing under the bus now. If I was a committed athlete, like this is my, sport that I'm committing my life to up to this point. And everyone's like, so-and-so's butt, or wow, look how attractive this athlete is.
Yeah,
it's like everyone's like, I'd be like, what? But all right, but I'm an athlete though. I can actually.
There was article recently. It actually kind of ties into that.
The Paralympic.
No, yeah, I think so. That her shorts were really short, and they were trying to like shame her into wearing longer shorts.
But there's an actual function to like those really short shorts. It's really, I mean, you need you gotta move, and those it's the shorter the shorts, the more you can move, and sadly it covers up just enough, but I guess it doesn't cover enough.
That hip freedom.
The hip freedom. But like I mean, I'm actually a huge fan of just more like one-on-one kind of competitive. I mean, they're all competitive, but like more one-on-one, like fencing, like wrestling we mentioned before. I'm actually looking forward to archery, even though it's not the same kind of archery I do. I like compound kind of hunting archery and bow hunting. They're more like recurve, it's a little bit different, but I enjoy watching it. And I said fencing already. Gymnastics, I just like watching gymnastics because of like the athleticism. It's like, I can't do any of that, especially the rings, where you like there's this one part where the men literally hold a ring like that, like the arms completely just like this. And there is one dude, he wears a headband, I forgot his name. He would like do like I don't think it's called a crucifix. I forget what it's called because that may be problematic to say, but he'll hold it out and he'll open his palms. He'll have his hand. He was like this, and he'll open his palms. So he's not even grabbing onto the actual rings. So I was like, I can't do that. But but the weird thing is that this is more the guys. Their proportions are really weird because they're very top heavy. So their arms and shoulders and chest are like huge, but their legs are super, super skinny.
Yeah.
Like they're proportionately, they're just not quite right. They would never win a bodybuilding contest. Or even the opposite are the cyclists. Or the ones that the speed cyclists, where they actually they're literally going in a ring or a track. Like their legs are huge. Like their quads are humongous, but their upper bodies are like money. Like
sprinters too. That's like a sprinter. Like they're very muscular.
Their bodies are specifically for that one sport, but I wouldn't imagine like what happens if you just commit your whole life to this one thing and then like you just stop doing it. Like what happens? I'm sure you get kind of depressed.
You know what? I think you just get addicted to something else physical.
Maybe you become a coach. I don't know.
That's what I think you do. You know, that's what a lot of, like, I know a lot of fighters, you know, they'll start doing something else, like, physical, you know.
Or you could be at De La Hoya and start wearing dresses.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of...
You do you, man.
Speaking of boxing and dresses...
Kind of sexy in a dress.
This weekend, Paige Van Zandt versus Rachel Ostovich, bare knuckle.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of... That ties everything in, you know, like, being, like, looking at your looks, and you've worked your whole life at being a fighter.
Was it? I mean, I hate
because they're like the two, I guess, quote unquote, hottest MMA girls. You know, like,
did she get in? Was it her that got enhancements?
No, that was Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk, yeah.
And she just popped up out of nowhere, you know, and then everyone's like, "Whoa!"
You know who else? Who came back?
Misha Tate.
Misha Tater Tots. Yes. Yeah. Misha Tater Tot. I mean Misha Tate. I like to play with names, but yeah, she came back and didn't look rusty at all.
No, yeah, and she looked, like they said, in the best shape of her life. She had 2 kids in the layoff. It was like a 5-year layoff, and she definitely looked different. Like, she looked leaner, but like more athletic. I don't know. It was crazy. Did you watch the fight? I
saw highlights of the fight. Didn't see the fight, but I will try to catch it soon. But I saw enough to be like, yeah, she looks different, a little bit more leaner.
Yeah,
which is really hard to do after 2 kids.
She truly grinded out that fight. You know, it was up in the air for a while, and then she just wore out Marion Renault.
Maybe she goes back up the rankings and gets a rematch with Amanda.
Yeah,
maybe.
It's something. It's something to be said that she's still getting wins, and Ronda Rousey just like disappeared. You know.
Yeah.
But it's something like the evolution of the game. You know, it just keeps evolving. Even that break that Conor took, you know, like that could be very well when we look back. Like,
no pun intended. That break that Conor took.
Yeah, no pun intended.
That Conor got. Like,
yeah, like the game passed him by. You know, he came back to leg kicks. He wasn't ready for it, and everyone had been doing leg kicks this past whole year. Yeah. You know,
I mean, it definitely says something about having kids, and you know, that's commendable to like retire, start a family, and then get back into like fighting shape. Like I could not imagine getting back to like my wrestling shape. Like, I would have to lose like 40 pounds. I mean, if I wrestled again, I probably wouldn't even get that low, but that's hard to do. You know, it's really tough. But I guess she's kind of having her cake and eating it too. Like, have a family and have my kids and go back to fighting. But actually, there's one video I saw, the X pays my bills video that I saw, and another... kind of going full circle here because I think that's where we started. Another woman in that video said, you know, I can have my cake and eat it too because it's my cake, so I can eat it, obviously. When someone says, I can have my cake and eat it too, or you can't have your cake and eat it too, do you know, like, what that actually means? Because I've been asking people questions like, what does that actually mean? Like, what does that entail, or in a literal sense or hypothetical sense? Like, can't have your cake and eat it too.
Not at the moment, but I remember someone mentioning that and talking about it.
So pretty much in a literal sense, you can't have your cake and eat it too means literally if you have a cake and then you eat it, you don't have a cake anymore. So you can either have your cake or you can eat it, but you can't have it, eat it, and still have it.
So it's in like the possession sense.
Yes.
Like,
so that's what that means, because I've been hearing or reading people online like, I can have my cake and eat it too. Like, you don't understand the actual analogy of what that means. You can't eat something and still have that thing.
Yeah.
You know, so
they should say like, you can't possess your cake and still eat
so I can have my cake and eat it too because it's my cake, so I can eat it. It's like, then you don't have your cake anymore. That's how that works. Yeah. You know, I guess when it comes to it pertains to our actual podcast name, WordsrTough. Like, when people say things like, fall down 7 times, get up 8, and things like that, I feel people use those things and don't actually like know what they're talking about, or know like the origin of it, or even like ever heard the phrase rule of thumb?
Yes.
Have you ever used it?
The phrase?
Yeah. Oh, rule of thumb is this.
Yeah.
Do you know where it comes from?
No.
Want me to tell you?
Sure. Yes, please tell me.
It's a podcast, of course. Tell me. Well, pretty much, I believe this originated in England. I could be wrong, but it's definitely a white country, where you're allowed to beat your wife as long as the stick that you use was no wider than your thumb.
Oh.
It's called rule of thumb. So like you can or physically discipline, or it's called beating. You're beating your wife. So and then that kind of evolved to just rule of thumb as like, in general, or to say, well, rule of thumb is this, as in like generally speaking, this is either the rule. So like they didn't give you a measurement, but still a rule of thumb. So however wide your thumb was, that's what you can use. But it kind of obviously lost. I'm happy we don't do that anymore. At least, yeah. So I'm happy that rule isn't a rule anymore. But I used it one time in jiu-jitsu in one of my classes, and one of the ladies pulled me to the side and said, you kind of said something that's actually pretty like messed up to say. I'm like, what did I say? Because I'm a teacher, and I'm like on top of like saying the right thing all the time. And they're like, oh, you said rule of thumb. I'm like, what's wrong with that? And she kind of like explained it to me. I'm like, oh, that's what that meant? Okay, I'm not going to use that anymore. So I would say like generally speaking or something like that, or like in general, or like, something like of that nature. But I just stopped saying rule of thumb because it kind of doesn't have the best, history behind it.
But so that's the rule of thumb. But like, how did it become used to say like, like it was the number, like, like number one rule type of,
or a general rule. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it transitioned from one to the other. Or one thing that it was my wife that told me, but we were dating at the time. I said, "Oh, you gypped me." Like, as in like, I forgot what were the context of it, but I said, "Oh, you gypped me." And growing up, to gyp someone, you tricked them, or you took something from them, usually is money, or like you pay for something and you didn't get like everything that you paid for. And I realized that to gyp someone is the gyp is short for gypsy.
I said that at work the other day,
and
it got weird.
And she's like, "Yeah, can you not say that?" And I'm like, "Why not? Like, what's wrong with that word, to gyp someone?" It's like, "Oh, that's like short for gypsy," and like that's not a good thing to say. It's like calling someone an Indian giver, which you don't really hear that much anymore, thank God. But it's like to give someone and take it back. So I realized, there's a lot of words I'm constantly like realizing, like, hey, like it's like normal to say, but then when you find out the history behind it, it's pretty messed up. Like, what was that guy's name? He was an Asian basketball player.
Yao Ming?
No, even from the Knicks. He like blew
Insanity.
up. Jeremy Lin. Yeah, there was one. I think it was like Sports Illustrated or something like that, or some news article, and they put, "Oh no, there's a chink in the armor."
Oh my God, that is.
Or is there? I'm not gonna say that, but is there a chink in the armor or something like that? And it was like, what? So you can't.
What? Yeah, that like who okayed that?
Yeah, it is. So there's like so many different. I mean, I don't want to be the ruler of like words you can or can't say. I just think it's nice. It's nice to just be sensitive to certain words that you say. It's like, I mean, if you choose to say certain things, that's on you, but you also reap the consequences of saying those certain words. But But I noticed growing up, there's a lot of like just regular vernacular words that when you actually like look them up, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah,
the origins of it.
It's just so crazy how far we've come, because transport yourself back to like 2000. Let's say 2000.
2000. It's 21 years ago. Oh my
God, that word is like, you could say those words while you're giving your baby like applesauce. Like those aren't even bad words back then. Like they were way more heavier words people were using on the regular, daily. Like more like biggity words, like
Biggity.
No, biggity. Just also wanted to point out, last episode when we ended, I said words were tough.
You did. I didn't want to correct you. Where's the word tough? No,
yeah.
Are tough. But again, make sure you subscribe.
Click
gently
the like button.
Caress the subscribe button and the like button and all that, or click or tap or
hover over the bell and then click.
Yeah. But I don't know if we need to censor ourselves. I did say, well, I quoted something for Jeremy Lin. I didn't call him that.
Yeah.
I just quoted a article.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm still gonna maybe censor
maybe
it.
That.
And yeah, and then I didn't use one word, but then I said the other one. So I'm like, I still have to censor my story too.
So,
but it's tough when you're trying to talk about sensitive subjects and
without trying to say everything,
yeah,
or say the word that's problematic or phrase that's problematic.
Yeah, and then it's also like we're talking about the past, so it was like back then it was like more commonplace to say these things
or accepted.
Yeah, like it wasn't a second thought as it is now.
Yeah,
like people have evolved and like changed.
But I think I remember I spoke to a family member and I said if I had to pick between people being more sensitive or less sensitive, as in being respectful of like their culture or their gender, sex, identity, all that. Do I prefer people being more considerate and respectful or less? I prefer being more considerate and respectful than or less considerate and respectful. Like like if I had to pick an extreme, I would pick extremely respectful and courteous and kind than the other extreme of just being complete jerks and mean and inconsiderate and not respectful. So, but that's me though. Call me a liberal. I'm liberal for some things, I'm liberal for other things, or I'm conservative for some things, I'm liberal for other things. When it comes to being, I'm liberal for this, I'm liberal for that.
Yeah, I thought that was a good Jedi mind trick real quick.
Yeah, but when it comes to being respectful and kind and courteous and not being a jerk, I'm very liberal when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like, I'm a little bit selfless and like mentioning, I think I gave some relationship advice, whereas like, hey, what do you provide to your relationship? Not so much they can give to me. So I kind of view it the same way with my friendships or people that I know. Like, okay, like, how do I meet them where they're at? And, as opposed to like, well, this is what I say and you need to be okay with me saying these things. Like, no, okay, this is my friend or someone that I respect or a coworker or a colleague or what have you. Me saying certain words makes some of them uncomfortable, so I just won't say those words. Just or have a very odd friction relationship or job. I don't know, colleague, whatever. But I'm all about like calming the waters and being as kind as I can possibly be. That's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends that it's like. They talk more freely when there's not so many people around,
Yeah.
And then sometimes
knowing your audience matters.
Yeah, and then you're just kind of like, okay, that's what we're going to do, But, sometimes it's like friends you've had for years and it's just like, Yeah,
I mean, knowing your audience is really, really, really important. Who you're speaking with and to whom, knowing who you're speaking with does matter. That obviously matters.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and I mean, there's another interesting intertwining episode. We're gonna have to drop some censorships on it,
some bleeps there. I don't know. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, and thanks so much for.
I think. Sorry to cut you off, but
okay.
I think intent matters. Like,
Yeah.
I said the word you gypped me. Like I didn't say it. Like I said as an example.
Yeah.
Like
and
I'm
also,
not calling you that.
Yeah. And I'm also like I have like
context matters.
This thing where I laugh when I'm nervous. So like there's probably
I noticed that
ill-timed laughs.
You have a very nervous laughter.
So then it just adds to it, like it compounds, and
it sounds like you're taking it loosely, but
yeah.
That's just how you react to things.
Yeah, I'm the worst. I'm like, there's that episode of Modern Family where like there's like a tragedy and she just like smiles because she doesn't know what to do, because she's just nervous and she's like, I swear I'm not happy about this.
Just never smile.
Yeah, but yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging with us on episode 16. Very interesting twists and turns that we went through. We just want you to leave some comments below on what you think. Subscribe, hit the like button, whatever you can, share. We really appreciate the support. And my name is Jose Rodriguez, and my co-host
David Diokendo.
And this was Words Are Tough. Have a good night. And
bye-bye.